Cool. All right. Must be an Austin thing. Let's get into the Bulls on Wall Street chat room. Oh man. All right, game time. NVIDIA. Let me see. Hey Brian, let's see what you got on these. NVIDIA. Yeah, it's in play. I wish this thing was kind of cruising back. It's already popped 10 bucks. Baidu's gapping up in the range. That one's no good. LCRX. LRCX. This one could work. This is a little tiny gapper though, right? It's a little baby gapper. You got to be a little bit careful with those. And we want to see these things really move. Yeah. So let's find some hotter ones. Let's see here. All right. The fuck? Sorry. I'm trying to find this fucking link. Oh, there it is. All right, so that one looks all right, Brian. You know, I'd probably keep it on the list. DE. John Deere. Yeah, you could definitely play this one. I didn't have this one on the list, but my only words, I don't like when they gap down and then they start cruising back almost towards green, because it leaves all this support underneath when it starts to roll over, and it gets a little bit tricky. Even if you use pre-market data or don't, it's there, you know, hidden away. Let's see what else you got here. YY. Yeah, I do think YY's probably got a little bit more downside. I'd keep an eye on that one. You got to watch these spikes in this thing. They see just every spike's getting faded off on this bad boy. Even though it's oversold, it's not really giving you inclination that it wants to roll. Yeah, ESPR is not bad. The float on this is pretty tiny. You know, this thing could. The only issue on this one I see is that, man, this little sucker had like 8,000 shares in volume, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. But, you know, overall the market structure is pretty good. We had a decent-sized day in the market for the most part. You know, we had a gap up. Gap up days are the worst to trade because when the gap is so big, you know, the market's up 400 points. Where are you going to go? I mean, you got nowhere to go. I mean, you may go down, but, you know, that was it. And we kind of drifted down a little bit into the close. I had a flat day. I was like minus 300 bucks yesterday. Couldn't get anything going. You can see the same thing with S&P. Like, we owe our beat here. And, you know, and we were cruising up. But at that point, you've just used up all your range in the market. These big gap up days, in a bull market, you want to see small gap down days. Those are the best days to trade. When you get a small gap down, then you can go red to green, but also it doesn't take the range out of like the stocks on your watch list. You get a big gap up. A little gap up is okay, but you get a big one, it takes out all the ranges in some of the stocks, and you can't really even, the market's too strong to short, and you can't really, you know, the market's too strong to short, but you can't chase it for a long, so then you're just kind of stuck. Yeah, this IZA looks okay. You know, this is not much to play today, so something like this we may add to the list. Good find. All day array. I like it. Let me just kind of prune this thing up here. And this Despacito went red to green and then just flowed back all the way down. That thing was acting a little bit wild. So gappers for today. This JWN, it's kind of gapping into resistance here. So I'd only take this thing if it hangs out over 55. It's still over 55 right now. So at that point, you can still take longs on it. If it breaks back under, this thing could just very well go red on the day. We're seeing a lot of a lot of opening range reversals. You know, we took this thing short in Bazoon. I mean, this thing, like, we wicked a couple $1,000 on this thing in like 5 minutes. You know, see how like a couple days ago, it just, when it gapped right into resistance. When it does that, like, you know, I'll take this thing counter and take this thing down. We cut like an easy like $3-4 on this thing right at the open. That's why you always want that clean gapper. If it's not clean, breaking out the highs or breaking out the lows, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. So you got to always be thinking like, you know, where's my airspace? Where's my airspace? Is it up? Is it down? Is there any action in there? Because if it's not clean like that, then you're just going to be really, really stuck, you know, kind of playing the penis in between this game. So you got to always kind of be careful with that. Sherman, what's going on, baby? Hey, Snail, what's up? Dun, 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 dun. So these are kind of some of the, this EOLs is an IPO, so this one may have a little bit of juice. It doesn't have much volume just yet, 20,000 shares, but it normally doesn't trade at all pre-market. I'm a little bit curious if it breaks this range right here, because we do have room to about 24, and so that's not too bad. Like, it's definitely got a little bit of action on it, so we'll keep an eye on this one. The float on this is 5 million shares, so like when it goes, it goes. Now the caveat, of course, is going to be that, right, it just doesn't have that much volume just yet, and it has been kind of in a downtrend, but it's ranged out now the last month. So the buyer-seller should be at equilibrium, so that's pretty good. The SPY itself, it looks still in bullish territory. Yes, we are gapping down slightly today. But if anything, that's probably a little bit bullish because at least we'll be able to keep some of the range in the markets. I'd rather see a small gap down than definitely a gap up. So we're pretty good on that. SPY QQQ still in a solid state. Cornwell, what's up, baby? So that's actually going to be pretty good. Keep this AMAT on the list. So AMAT and NVIDIA both had bad earnings. Similar sectors. So when you get like multiple companies that are getting smoked out pre-market that are in the same sector, that's usually good because, you know, one leads to the other. Selling in one begets the other, and it can take down even some of the other ones that are riding along in that particular group. So that's pretty good. We'll definitely want to keep an eye on that one. It's been light on gappers, man. It was such a sick couple weeks for trading. I don't know about, you know, that it just, you had gapper after gapper, especially a few days ago with all the Chinese ones. Now we're kind of entering the slow portion of earnings season. I just saw the news that the Trumpster may try to make earnings like once every 6 months, which really would take a little bite out of what we do. But it might make it fun because it would definitely make the earnings more dramatic. You know, if you were only getting them twice a year, you'd really be just like bunkered down for battle twice a year because the earnings would just be really good. Irwin, head and shoulders patterns don't really work on a like 5-6 day time frame because a lot of times a dip will look like a shoulder, but that dip is healthy. So you got to kind of think about it in the context of larger term trends, but also just kind of the time frames that you're watching. Is it a daily chart? Is it an hourly chart? So on and so forth. On the other side, probably the top plays for us to watch today. This thing's already starting to fade off. But if we get a rampant dust back above this 43s, I'm looking for one more big push. So even though it's been up a lot of days, it's only had 2 big pushes. Looking for one more big push on this thing to take this down for a rubber band setup. If you don't have shares and dust, you know, watch this JNUG. This thing's down, you know, kind of 50%. Nugget. I wouldn't just buy these blindly. So rubber band setups are really, really hard. Hardest setups I find to trade because it's counter trend. What you need to see when you get the rubber band setup is usually one more flush down, and then you need to see a 1, 2, 3 pattern. That's the easiest way to time a rubber band setup. So rubber band setup, a 1, 2, 3 pattern is essentially when you pop down, then you pop up a little bit, make a what's it called? Lower high, pop back down, and you're going to either double bottom or make a higher low, and then you go. So it's essentially going to look kind of like a big W. That's the easiest way to do a rubber band setup. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at this thing, because that's going to be how it bounces. This thing's in a free fall, so if you just try to buy it just to buy it, you're going to get smoked out. But you got to start to wait for a little bit of a reversal. If you start to see a small reversal, look for the 1, 2, 3 pattern. That's how you're going to probably time the top of this without getting smoked out, because counter trend trading is near impossible unless you've just got incredible speed or skill. The other things, they do take a couple times to do. Yeah, this Tesla's kind of moving pre-market, but notice how it's like just coming down into this range over here. When it starts to do that, I'm not really that interested in it, because it very well could knife through or bounce. It's a little bit of a tweener, and so that one hurts a little bit, you know, like when you have like something that's moving, but you don't have necessarily an edge in whether it's a long or short, depending on the daily. I typically leave those alone. I keep a couple of these little pot stocks on the list too. CGC had like a big rip a couple days ago. Kind of consolidated around yesterday, but overall its daily charts kind of show that it may break out soon. Same thing with Kron. You can see like this longer term breakout in the works. It's looking pretty good. You know, those are going to be some hot ones to watch probably in the next couple days. They may not be ready today. I'd be surprised if they went today. Narrow down the list, guys. There's not going to be that many stocks to trade, which is actually good. It'll at least give us just a focused list of stuff. Really keep an eye on those golds. That's going to be really, really huge. Netflix looks okay, but the daily chart sucks deep. So that's something, you know, you've got to kind of keep an eye on, is like you're just not getting necessarily any action on the daily charts on the Netflix. You know, it's going to take some time. Like this thing just looks lower to me. But too late to short also. You know, when you have something that's like grinding down like this, if it's down 4 or 5 days in a row, it's going to be hard to take it for a short also, because, you know, you don't have necessarily, it's oversold. So that's something kind of just keep an eyeball on it. These things suck. Take these off the list. All right. Guys, it's go time. I'll be in the chat room if anybody needs me.